Even in a dystopian future, when the robots have taken over, even if we haven't got a power source, a painting doesn't need any batteries, so that will, last the test of time.
Today, we have a very talented friend on board, and he is a portrait painter. He has been a finalist twice in one of Australia's biggest prizes, the Archibald Portrait Prize. He has painted for A-listers in music and film industries, and a lot of A-listers in his heart as well. Claus, welcome to the Museum of Thought.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm just going to jump straight into some questions that I've got for you, because I believe that portraiture is something that should really be protected. It has been around for 5,000 years, since ancient Egyptian times, and the way that it makes us pause and observe people is just so valuable right now. But out of all the things that you could have gone to from the arts point of view, what drew you into portraiture?
Great question. I think it's the study. I think meeting people, to be honest with you, is one way. One thing I started finding was when you have a reason behind something, it's actually a bit easier to try and meet the people that you find is sort of inspiring and interesting. And I think that kind of draws me in. The thing with portraiture, what I've kind of come to realize is it's almost like accepted voyeurism. We talk to people face to face, but you can't really stare at anyone for too long without being ushered away, or them calling the police. So I think what's really interesting is when you paint someone's portrait, it's actually, and the art is on the wall, it's inviting people to look and to sort of really take time longer than normal to sort of study people's face. And so there's always a story behind the painting, and I think that's quite hard to necessarily capture, but you just try and get the essence, I guess, of someone. So mainly it's I just find humans ultimately really interesting, and I've used it as a way to meet some interesting people.
I love that. And throughout this career in portraiture that you have, you would have poured thousands of hours of brushstrokes into concentrating on one person, which just doesn't happen in any other type of medium, or just in life in general. That time staring at somebody's face. From that, what do you think we miss about observing each other in daily life?
Probably, I think a lot of us can be quite guilty of just taking things on surface value, and I think when I'm painting, and it's hours and hours, and some of the big paintings I do, it will take weeks. So it could be 4 or 5 weeks, literally every day for 9 hours. I think you start to interrogate the person and the story behind, and I think being an artist, there's many reasons why I enjoy doing it, but I think it's made me a bit more, or have more empathy. I think in trying to look beyond someone's reaction, or their mood in that morning, because it can kind of change. So I think we miss that a lot, and it's made me a bit more patient and less quick to judge, because there's often something going on behind someone's maybe initial reaction, or their even just the look on their face or their expression.
Yeah, I feel like you just gain so much more insight about a person, from, to your point, what's going on with them in their world, and just really looking at the person and their whole story when they sit down in front of you, rather than just your perception or your filter of what's happening to you in your day as you look at them.
100%. I think when I'm lucky and when I have the time, obviously I'll sit down, have a cup of tea, and talk to the person and try to understand what they're about. Really, it's just about that connection immediately. And really, I'd like to meet my subjects more than once and kind of talk and see what matters to them, and then work out how I can use, I guess, my approach and style to painting. Yeah, to kind of do them justice. But and it's only through those conversations that you find the little nuggets of things, and stuff in their story, and some things they may not want to represent, but also you get a sense of a vibe on maybe how they want to be represented and remembered, because portraiture, obviously, it lives on forever, which is so much more I guess grand than a photograph, that we're so used to imagery, and everyone has got so much also familiar with capturing their day in day life. But portraiture, when you do a painting, it's quite a compliment, I think, to someone. And it kind of lives forever, and so it's quite nice to be sort of immortalized in that manner.
Yeah, the power of it is that your work will be here long after we are. You know, that
Yeah.
capture of a person. And I know that photos will do the same thing, but I mean, we're such a fast moving media, image snapping. Like a lot of us aren't even archiving our photos anymore. Like we've started to move
Yeah.
away from that, or even just backing them up properly. So
Well,
that
yeah.
that portraiture is so important.
And it's a completely different behavior as an onlooker to our, what looking at reels on our phones and skipping through content. It really is quick, and we do talk about everything's trying to get your attention, and we look at things for such a short period of time. Um, but then when it's with a painting, it actually just it creates a space for people to take a pause and look at things for a long time, whether it's analyzing why an artist has approached a painting in such a way, um, and then understanding the person and the story, and then if you really love your art, you'll be looking at the technique, or how have they actually made it, the sort of nuts and bolts of the painting. That's why I like working large, because you have a relationship with an image from a long distance, and and then as you get closer, it starts to reveal more of it, and then I always find myself as close as I can be to the canvas, and just trying to understand, and I try and analyze, I guess, for tips on technique, on how things have been achieved.
What draws you to a person to paint? Like, do you have subconsciously a criteria that comes up, whether it be shape of the face or energetically something that's drawn, or a deeper story that you want to try and capture?
All of the above. I think sometimes when you're entering work, if it's for an art prize, you do have to be kind of quite tactical with it. If I'm honest, I think all the artists know that. You want to try and paint someone that hasn't been painted before, so hopefully it feels fresh. You want to try and find someone with like an interesting story, which is another reason why I choose them. And then I'm thinking, well, who do I like? Who do I admire? Who would I like to sort of have a chat with and meet? Um, and that's the kind of like another reason for it. Other than that, I do like painting people I love. I've painted my fiance twice, one with our oldest dog, she from a lovely image a friend of mine took, and then one just sort of was a couple of years ago. I took of her, and just painted her wrapped in foil, and there's lots of deeper hidden meanings in there. But I've now realized it's quite nice, because I'm going to try and document sort of her. So it's the people I care about, and I've enjoyed that. And so there'll be a bank through time, and to kind of capture her specifically, as time progresses. And I think that's kind of it's much more special than sort of capturing photographs that usually just live on our phone.
I saw that picture, that painting you're talking about, the butcher, on your site. It was stunning how she was wrapped in that. It was really cool. How has it been someone? Obviously, you love painting the people that you love, and I think that's really important as well. Has there been someone else that you've really enjoyed painting, that you took a different angle with, that you didn't know you were going to go down that road with them?
Yeah, there's a comedian called Sam Simmons. He's Australian. He's a comedian, writer, actor, and I just find him really, really, really funny. And he's got a very interesting look. He's got a moustache, wears glasses. He's bald on top, and has hair on the side of his head. He's quite a special guy. When I kind of sort of talk to him, he's super intelligent. Very irreverent. His humor is completely quirky, and the painting I actually made quite a few paintings of him. The biggest one was about 2.5 meters tall and 2 meters wide, and I basically smashed a strawberry flavored ice cream on the top of his head and let it melt, and then took a bunch of pictures before it got too cold, because apparently ice cream burns, getting ice burns. So that was like, I didn't know I was going to do that until we sort of, we obviously had a kind of conversation, and then I had a bunch of different ideas, and I always shared it with him. So I was sort of surprised, because I was like making portraiture with a slight twist, or there's something in there. It's not just a straight face. But then I also have these tiny little figurine people that are like from a train set, and ended up just placing them around his face. And he's so expressive, and he's got such a great look that they just produced a bunch of imagery that was really cool. And I did a series of five smaller square pink paintings. And obviously, had I not had the chat, had he not been kind of quirky and irrelevant, and it really sort of suited him and his comedy, yeah, I would never have known that I would have put ice cream on his head. And in that picture, I try to push it a bit more, where I actually made the entire painting smell of strawberry ice cream. So I had little scented vials that I put behind it, and I mixed strawberry and candy floss um, scent. And so when it was sort of hanging in my studio, and I did an exhibition, it was you walk into that space and suddenly you can see him, and it looks peculiar, and it's a bright pink background. But there was also another sense being triggered, which was like the sense of smell. So that got me into wanting to try and add scent to more of the paintings I do. And sometimes they lend themselves to it, and sometimes they don't. But yeah, that was pretty cool.
I love that extra sensory element. That's very cool. Uh, how does it feel when you finally reveal the final version of the portrait when you hand it over? Like, what took us through that experience?
Yeah, you do. You just get naturally nervous because you want the person to like it. I think I I would only ever share with someone a picture that I was sort of proud of, and I think it's kind of of a standard that hopefully they're proud. I So yeah, normally I'll get them round and they'll just come to my studio and I'll have it hanging just by itself. And yeah, it's an interesting you get different reactions, but I think most people, they don't get portraits painted of them, so it's quite a special thing. So you naturally get a little bit nervous because you want them to be happy. But I don't think I paint pictures that make people look silly. I'm not one of these people also though who beautifies someone. I enjoy the lines and the wrinkles, so I'm not going to try and hide things. So maybe sometimes it could be confronting for someone, if to sort of see themselves in that way. But some people also don't really sort of care so much, or they find it they don't want to seem vain. So even like painting Sam, he's been really supportive of the work, but I think he's extremely modest, and I think for him maybe he didn't want to, I guess be too not into it, but like I think he didn't want to seem it like vain. Some people can see themselves being painted that it's a sort of vanity play, it's not. So he was really modest with it. But I also recently painted a friend's 4-year-old kid holding a toy gun, and his reaction was great. He loved it. He was as soon as he turned the corner and saw the painting on the back wall in the studio, he was really excited, and he loved it. So yeah, I think he sort of he's 4 years old, so um, it was quite a new thing for him. He doesn't quite understand, I guess, the concept, but as he left, he sort of shouted down the hall and just said that he loved his picture, which was kind of really cool. So everyone has very different reactions.
I love that. And because children are the most brutally honest as well, they're going to let you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
How
really cool. I mean, I got so lucky with that kid. He had a lollipop in his mouth, and he really gave a really fun expression. And I think, um, like I say, it looked really cool. And I think on a meter square canvas, it was quite a different experience for him. So yeah, he totally loved it. If he didn't like it, you're right, kids are honest, and he would have told me.
how long is the process from where to go? Like, what's your dream allowance of time to do the craft that you do?
A couple of months. I think it's just working out how many times I can meet the person. Um, and then, then I basically need to meet them, and then I'll then arrange a photo shoot because I take a long time. I don't draw from life. Because I blow them up, I work off a grid. So I always work with a pencil drawing by hand. Um, and then it can take a very sort of big variety of time. I'm trying to get looser and quicker. I think as an artist, with people are aware that my art is quite a slow art, and some people have a looser style, which means you can, on a practical business sense, make more paintings per year and have a bit more of a viable business. If I was just doing portraits, and if it took me 5 weeks to do each picture, you're not going to have sort of so many to make. So really, but like I like the 2 month window because I need to live with something. Life always gets in the way as well, so you don't always have a clear run of time to make the work. But I'd say, yeah, a 2 month window works. But I'm working at getting quicker and sort of a little bit looser now, finding a process. So when I painted my friend's kids, it was basically a week to 2 weeks time, on and off. So for me, that's a game changer. It's not a month per picture anymore, but the scale was a little bit smaller. But if I speak to someone, yeah, I think they can expect to see something probably in between 8 to 10 weeks. I just say that as a buffer zone. So I've got ample time to kind of like relax into it, you know?
Uh, I'm finding this a lot with some of our guests is that they all live these lives of extremes as well. One really does fuel the other, even from
Mm,
a discipline area or a creative area. But your career back down, Klaus, which is where we work together as well, is heavily in advertising as a creative and then in technology with in Silicon Valley brands. And you still manage to be a really accomplished portrait painter. And I just think that is one outstanding. And it always draws me to you because you're always been extremely disciplined and humble with your talent. I remember when we worked together and you casually threw into a conversation, oh, by the way, I do a little bit of painting. And you could come down to the studio, bring a couple of us that we all from our team down to your art studio. And I walked in and I saw one of the big paintings, I think that had some beautiful big hands in it. I
yeah.
think, and I just stood there and it was huge and it was stunning. And I may have like such a crier. I may have a tear had fallen out because you were so humble about how good you are. And when I walked in and saw your work on those walls, I was like, wow, I was just completely blown away.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's nice to hear. Thank you.
Based on your career of extremes, like how important do you feel it is as a creative mind to like really hold on to your passions, no matter where life pulls you, no matter what mixed revenue streams we need to survive, but to
Mm.
really not lose that?
It's so important. I think if you're in, if you're in sanity, I think to allude to having a career in advertising over 20 years, that I feel like you work in a big team. You've got a million opinions changing something that initially it may be you and your creative partner that come up with the nub of an idea, and you feel like you own it, but then you have to let go, and then everyone else has their take on it. Whether it's your creative director or a planner, and then if you share that, and if something's going to get made, you have a director, you have the client, you have a whole team of people. And I always needed painting, as that. I've been hiring studios for 15 years, self-taught, and I needed that as a way of, a few things. One, it's actually meditation for me, and we talk about the flow, and I get into that every time I paint. And what I've realized is it's a really important way for me to just compute life, and I'll have conversations and you rework things. It's a bit like dreaming, you kind of compartmentalize things and coming to conclusions. Um, but I think you just need to have that piece of you, because many of our lives we have jobs where we do work with so many people, and there's a lot of compromise. Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. They say, is it a horse designed by a committee is a camel? which can be which can be quite true a lot of times, and sometimes you end up with the end thing, and it was because unless you can keep a clear vision and you've got your close team around you to get that, it can drift away. So I think having whatever the side hustle is, it's really important to keep the essence of you, and make yourself find joy. I enjoyed my career in advertising and I wouldn't have changed it. Um, but I think I needed to always have that thing for me. Um, and then obviously I knew that, I would like to have my later years working as an artist, because, artists can work until they're 70 and 80. And that was really important. And so I needed to spend time doing the craft. But it was dedicated. And you talk about organizing time. When I was working, I'd get into the studio at 6 in the morning and then paint until 8, and then get on the train into the city, and then do the day job. And then other times I'll work evenings, and you just have to put the hours to do the craft. Often I do Friday nights, which is slightly like a smug grin, I think, when you're painting on a Friday night, because the majority of the world is out, just drinking, not making anything. And if you get in the studio at like 7 at night and paint until midnight, um, you've got a whole bunch of hours done, and I can go to bed exhausted from the week, pretty happy with that. I've kind of produced something. So Yeah, for me, I think it's been personally really important to hold on to that. There was always a future goal, but I think we need a sort of me time, and I think a lot of people get bogged down, and it is really hard with life, and some people have relationships and families and work that kind of makes you sort of exhausted, and then you go, you want to do something but you haven't got the energy. So for me, I found those moments like the super early morning, and just try and find those pockets. But even if you can do 1 or 2 hours on a Sunday morning for yourself, that's just the best way to start, because sometimes that 1 hour turns into 3 hours, or sometimes just accumulated weekends. You look back over 6 months and you've actually achieved something. So
Yeah, of that. And what I'm hearing as well is that it's also really important for not one thing to define you. And there's definitely a huge majority of human beings who sit in this space. I'll never forget being out somewhere, and a really good friend of mine, I was in advertising as a creative director, and he introduced me to somebody else, and he's like, uh, and he gave my title, which was creative director, but then he said something really sweet afterwards, which is, he goes, that title by no means defines her. And then it's like, she's
nice.
an installation artist, she does poetry, blah, blah, blah. And it was my good friend Timothy Hughes, if he's listening at all. But I never forgot that moment, because it meant so much to me as a
Yeah.
person, that I was like, oh yeah, permission to do all the things, because that's how my brain
Yeah.
works. And I don't need to
Yeah.
be defined by one title, but to give yourself that permission, because it's just that important.
We all have layers, and I think more and more of us have, I guess, a multi-careerist is a sort of, I guess, a new title. I'll stick that on my LinkedIn, because you're a creative and you're an artist, and I've got hopes of making film. I've done a few um, short films, and I'm writing film scripts, and I think lots of us are sort of multi-dimensional. Even if you're just not making anything, but you could be a mother, you're a wife, and you're you. And I think it's really important to have or to celebrate and exercise those things every day in small amounts, and to not trying to forget that. And many of us, especially people who are creative, they have many sort of facets and skills, and some people may be afraid to call themselves an artist, or they're suppressing that, or they're not giving themselves the opportunity to actually to play in that space, in their spare time. But yeah, we all have different sort of skills and interests, and yeah, you just have to be a bit sort of strict with yourself, or have a little routine, I think, to kind of map out your week, to work out how you can let each of those elements of you shine a little bit throughout the week.
Klaus, I would love to see what your object is. Can you let us have a look?
I can. So this is my little object, and
Ooh.
this is it's over here. This is my watch, and this is quite important to me. The battery stopped a while ago, which was quite poignant, which I'll explain. But for me, I bought this watch with my first paycheck when I got my first job as a junior art director in London, and I loved it. I'm not materialistic, and I don't really wear watches that much anymore. But this has become a bit of a sort of a reminder. It sits in my studio on my desk, and it doesn't work. Um, and it's really just to remind me of the importance of time, obviously, but it's more about whose time. Because I basically had a career shift, and I decided to sort of step away from advertising as a full-time um, thing when I was about 39. And I think when you hit around 40, I personally got quite reflective of feeling like I was halfway through the journey of life. And as I said before, you often working in teams or for other people, and a lot of time is often spent on other people's goals, which is often the company that you work for. And it's really important to own your own time, I feel, and this is what this is a kind of a reminder about. And it's fleeting. And I think the older you get, the older your parents get, and you start to realize that time flies by, and you hear about it when you're in your 20s, and people say, oh, time goes by really quickly. and it doesn't really resonate. And and for me, this is kind of I've kind of gone full circle with I just bought this as a general watch. It cost me about £300, so it's not necessarily lavish or anything, but it's become really important to me now, and time, and not to waste time. Now, it doesn't have to be time working on things. It's time spent with people I love, and my friends and family, and my fiance. Um, and then it's just about being present in time as well. Even if I'm walking the dogs in the morning, I make sure that I'm aware of it not feeling like a chore. I'm spending time with my dogs. Their little lives don't last forever. Someone I saw once said, you know, they're not there for our whole life, but we're there for the entirety of their life. And so whether it's spending time with people you care about, or just spending time moving forward for your own goal, it's so important. And so I have this in my studio. The battery died roughly the time when I decided to have a shift in career, which was quite poignant. And I quite left that. Loved that because it felt like, right, I'm going to now stop spending time for other people, and I'm going to spend time for myself. And when you go freelance, you realize that time is the thing that you have, and you can suddenly organize your time better. So I can walk my dogs at 4 in the afternoon, and there are still things to do. I'll get back into the studio at 8 o'clock at night and do another 2 hours, 2 hours work in there. So yeah, it's become very poignant. I feel like it seems quite obvious a watch being for time, but it's got so many kind of like layers. It's a really healthy reminder. Yeah. So this is my item.
I love it. And is there what's that? Is there a little crack on the side as well? Is there a story behind that?
Yeah, not see, but it's sort of broken there as well. I've got a kind of cracked windscreen on the camera on the watch. But I loved it dearly, and I still love it. It's a beautiful thing, a Nixon watch. Um, but yeah, so everyone shouldn't be. Hopefully, don't feel like you're wasting time. Time literally flies by. Um, so we've got to make the most of it.
I love it. I love the shape of the watch too. Like genuinely, it's a beautiful watch. I love that
It
it's
is
the
beautiful.
universe just stopped it, or the battery just stopped at a certain time,
Yeah,
which is like, here comes the
yeah,
next chapter of your life.
100%. We talked about sort of yeah, signs. I believe in manifestation, and reading the signs around you if you're open to it, and potentially this was quite a poignant thing.
I have a question for you, which is, has there been an object on your journey that you've lost that you think about a little bit? Anything that you've lost along the way?
That's a good one. Well, actually, recently lost this ring. My fiance got it for me. We've been engaged for a long time, and we should be married, but it's been about 6 years, I think. Um, and I was swimming in the ocean, and because it was cold, this thing just fell off. And she was kind enough to get me another one. It wasn't a sign for the relationship going south, or anything like that. But yeah, I lost that, and that was quite a shame because I had it for a year, and it meant so much to me. And it's somewhere in the bottom of the ocean, in Sydney at the minute. So yeah, but lucky enough, she had a replacement for me, which was kind.
I need to tell you something, which is why the team and I were just making eyes with each other. I was answering this question in an earlier stage, and my object that I think about is I lost my wedding ring while swimming in the ocean.
Oh, there you go.
And so I
Same.
was like, oh, this is so typical, right? To be, of course, this happening now. But yeah, I think about it all the time. And I was like, to your
Mm.
point, it wasn't that I don't want anyone to, like my late husband, to think I was being careless. And I do think about where it is, like where's the ring? And I
Yeah,
literally said this. It's sitting in the bottom of the ocean, or someone's picked it up, and I hope they're having a great time with it. But that is
yeah.
also an object that I think about all the time.
Yeah, they're finding their place, and whether these are, I don't know, metaphors or whatever they are, but these things happen. I think, but things get broken, and you do lose things. And I think, as much as these things are interesting icons as well, it's also, I think, like I've got dogs. I'm a painter. I get paint on everything. I'm constantly ruining my clothes, and I'm like, well, that's a studio T-shirt now. I've got paint in my car. You know, I've got dogs, and there's dog hair in my car. It's one of those dogs that one of the cars that I never wanted to didn't want a car that just smelt like dog with fur everywhere. But it's kind of like part of life. I'm a big fan of scars. You know, like I say, you got the chipped glass on the watch, and it's all kind of like just signs of life. And I kind of quite like it. It adds character.
Yeah,
Um,
me too.
it's just what will be, right?
Yeah. Oh, what do you think we attach too much meaning to?
Um, Potentially at the minute, I think society, maybe if I'm judgy, is probably this, the personal brand of perception on social media, I think, or maybe that there's too much people's opinions that people kind of care for. And I think the more that you lose that, the kind of the healthier you will be. I think maybe that's a cause of a lot of anxiety for culture right now. It's worrying about how they look and what people think. And it's a really hard thing to not do. I'm not saying it's an easy thing, but I think we probably put too much weight on that. I think people just need to ride in their own lane. Um, you do you, and sort of embrace the weird and the wonderful. I think so. I think yeah, maybe society's a little bit too self conscious, and it's not healthy for anyone.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Uh, who would you want to really paint next?
Well, I need to aim for the stars. I've got my eyes on an Australian who is actually an American too. But I've been a fan of the Red Hot Chili Peppers for many years since 1991, and I was a little 10-year-old kid. And Flea, the bassist of Red Hot Chili Peppers. I just find him. It's not just his music. He's such an interesting guy. And I've just from every interview I've seen, he's just so he wears his heart on his sleeve. He's a crier. I know you said you're a crier. I'm the same. I cry pretty easily. He's just a very open, fascinating, super creative, energized, unique human. Um, he was born in Melbourne, and I would love to sort of celebrate that. So, if he's out there, if anyone's out there who knows Flea, pass it on. I think I'd just love to have a meet with him and paint his portrait. I think I'm sure he'd bring loads of ideas to the table, and we could probably make something kind of quite special together. But he's my North Star at the minute. I would absolutely love to paint him.
I would love to see that happen. Anyone who knows how we can get Klaus and Flea connected to make that happen, then let's do it. Who would be the dream person to paint you?
That's a great question. I think I'd have to go for the greatest of all time for me. It's Jenny Saville. She is an amazing portrait artist. She's my favorite. She is just, yeah, she's been phenomenal for so many years. And she's my favorite portrait painter. And if I couldn't get her, I think there's a guy called Francois Bard. He's a French man. He does beautiful portraits. They're very moody. They're almost sort of film noir, sort of desaturated. He's got a really, really kind of really excellent style. So check out Francois Bard, Bard. So they're the two, but Jenny would be the dream.
Awesome. Oh, where do you hope the future of fine art portraiture goes? I, I can see that
Mm.
we are in this world of, the media is just getting faster with AI. Everything's getting a lot more of a synthetic haze, is what I like to call it. I try and veer away from it as much as possible and try and use these tools to make things that still feel real and rich and anchored to something physical. But what do you hope when you're not here on this planet anymore, where portraiture goes as a skill?
Yeah, I mean, I just hope it lasts forever and stands the test of time, and I think it will. I've been to so many historic museums. I was in Vienna visiting family earlier in the year, and seeing some of the sort of aristocrats on the wall. I feel even in a dystopian future, when the robots have taken over, even if we haven't got a power source, a painting doesn't need any batteries, so that will, last the test of time. So I think it's an art form that will keep being pushed forward. I think a lot of people don't do it. It's actually quite hard to sell faces, they say. I think often people will either buy maybe someone who's picture of someone who's famous or someone that they know. But if you're doing generic sort of faces, it's quite a hard push. So it's an art form that I think will always be around. And just for art and handmade things, I see it that I'm organic intelligence, and I hope that we love the handcraft, and that becomes maybe of more value in time, as we're saturated with so many pieces of kind of content that are out there that I'm fingers crossed, but I think maybe I don't need to cross my fingers. I think, art will always be appreciated, and I'm hoping it will become more so, with the ease of AI generating sort of, imagery, and we will have the tools to make things so much easier. There's a, there's a need for us to keep handcraft. And what's important there, I think, is humans can make mistakes. So when it's the human condition is also the only thing that we can kind of hold on to. So, if we can keep expressing ourselves, if you're a realist and you have the hands to make something look, perfect and beautiful, or if you're just quick and expressive, I think, sharing our voices is always going to be important. So I've got high hopes that it's going to maintain something that we all kind of appreciate and love, and kind of keep making.
What I would love to also ask of you is, are there any closing words that you'd like to add with this object for generations to come? Any words of wisdom?
Ooh, words of wisdom. I would say if you're thinking about changing your career, I say, and you have a passion and you're not working in your passion currently, I would say just back yourself and go out and do it. It's never too late. I was 40 when I made that change. I think it's scary, yes. We have responsibilities that we need to sort of follow through on, and bills to pay. But I think it's never too late. I don't care if you're 50 or 60. Joy and happiness is the important thing, and you need to spend your days, um, feeling that excitement of the things that you do. So my words are, just do it, basically. Back yourself, and kind of and follow your heart, even if it's just something you do on the weekends. But yeah, back yourself, and do it, because time slips away. So there's never a better time than now.
So thank you so much, friend. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun. Hi, my name's Claus Stangl. I'm an artist. This is my contribution to the Museum of Thought. This is my watch, and I hope it makes people think about the value of time and to make the most of the minute right now.